After Nero's death in 68 CE, Rome fell into pure chaos. For the first time in nearly a century, there was no emperor, no plan, no order. The throne was up for grabs, and whoever had the strongest army could claim it. What followed was one of the most turbulent years in Roman history, the year of the four emperors. It began with Galba, an old governor from Spain who marched his legions to Rome after Nero's suicide. The Senate welcomed him as a savior, but Galba ruled with arrogance and cruelty. He executed allies, ignored his soldiers' demands for payment, and lost support almost immediately. Within months, his own troops turned against him. In the middle of the forum, Galba was cut down by his own guards. His killer and successor was Otho, another noble who had once been Nero's friend. Otho promised peace and reform, but another general, Vitellius, was already marching from Germany with his legions. The two armies met in battle, and Otho's forces were crushed. Rather than prolong the war, Otho took his own life, a gesture the Romans would later call noble, almost heroic. But Vitellius didn't last either. His troops looted Rome, the treasury ran dry, and across the empire, another contender rose, a general named Vespasian, commander of Roman forces in Judea. His soldiers proclaimed him emperor, and by the end of 69 CE, Vespasian's legions stormed Rome. Vitellius was dragged from the palace and killed. At last, after a year of bloodshed, the chaos ended. Vespasian took the throne and founded a new dynasty, the Flavian Dynasty. He wasn't born into nobility, wasn't descended from Augustus, and didn't pretend to be a god. He was a soldier, plain-spoken, practical, and disciplined. That was exactly what Rome needed. Vespasian inherited a broken empire. The treasury was empty, cities lay in ruins from Nero's fire, and trust in the government was shattered. He began by restoring stability and rebuilding the state's finances. He reformed taxes, cracked down on corruption, and even joked about it. When criticized for taxing public toilets, he held up a coin and said, "Money does not smell." To restore public morale, he launched massive building projects. The greatest of them all would become a symbol of Rome itself, the Flavian Amphitheater, known today as the Colosseum. Built on the site of Nero's old palace, it was a message to the people: the age of excess was over, and Rome belonged to them again. While construction began, Vespasian's son Titus continued the war in Judea. In 70 CE, after a brutal siege, Roman forces captured Jerusalem and destroyed the Great Temple, a moment that reshaped Jewish history forever. The victory made Titus a hero, and when Vespasian died in 79 CE, the empire passed peacefully to him. Titus ruled only 2 years, but his time on the throne was marked by both triumph and tragedy. Early in his reign, Mount Vesuvius erupted, burying the cities of Pompeii and Herculaneum under ash and fire. Thousands died, and the empire reeled in shock. Titus responded with compassion, sending aid and personally funding recovery efforts. Then, just a year later, a massive fire swept through Rome again. Once more, Titus opened the treasury to rebuild. His generosity and humanity earned him a reputation as one of Rome's kindest rulers. The Colosseum was completed under his reign, and when it opened, the celebrations lasted 100 days, with gladiator games, naval battles, and feasts that dazzled the world. But Titus's rule was short. In 81 CE, he fell ill and died suddenly, only in his 40s. Rumors spread that he had been poisoned, possibly by his younger brother Domitian, who succeeded him. Domitian's reign was very different. He was intelligent and efficient but also ruthless and suspicious. He demanded to be called Lord and God, rebuilt the city's defenses, and increased soldiers' pay. Under him, the empire's borders were strengthened and order restored, but his paranoia grew worse with time. He filled Rome with spies, executed senators on suspicion alone, and alienated the very class that once supported his family. Despite the fear, the empire thrived under Domitian. Roads, fortresses, and temples rose across the provinces. The Colosseum hosted endless games, and trade flourished throughout the Mediterranean. Yet, the Senate never forgave his cruelty. In 96 CE, after 15 years of rule, Domitian was assassinated by members of his own court. His death ended the Flavian dynasty, but it also marked the beginning of a new chapter, one of relative peace and prosperity. The Senate, eager to avoid another tyrant, chose a respected old senator named Nerva as emperor. Nerva's brief rule began what later historians would call the era of the 5 good emperors, wise rulers who would bring Rome to its greatest heights of stability and power. But the Flavians had done their part. They took a crumbling empire, scarred by Nero's chaos, and rebuilt it brick by brick. They restored discipline, confidence, and identity to a people who had nearly lost faith in Rome itself. From the ashes of tyranny rose the Colosseum, a monument not just to Rome's power, but to its resilience. It stood as proof that even after fire, war, and madness, the empire could renew itself. Yet beneath that strength, the same old tensions still simmered: ambition, greed, and the endless struggle between emperor and senate. The peace would not last forever. In the next episode, we'll witness the height of imperial glory, the rule of the 5 good emperors: Nerva, Trajan, Hadrian, Antoninus Pius, and Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king who faced the beginning of Rome's long decline.